All right. Well, good evening, everybody. And tonight I wanted to welcome you to the first of a series of interviews I'm hosting with other professional coaches around Australia who specialize in a wide variety of coaching niches. And the purpose of this series, and I really wanted to share with you, is to demystify what working with a coach really means and how there are so many people and who can benefit from working from a coach, and there are people who specifically work in specific areas who can really help people transform their lives in lots of ways that you probably didn't know was possible. So to kick off the series tonight, I'm really excited to introduce Lauren Blundell, who's joining me tonight. So thanks, Lauren. So as a quick overview, so Lauren is a relationship and intimacy coach. So correct me if I'm wrong, but your goal, Lauren, is to help both men and women experience more intimate and connected relationships.
Yeah, and better sex.
Yeah, and better sex. Love it.
And better sex.
Yeah, perfect. So let's kick it off with, who is Lauren Blundell?
Oh, wow. Who is Lauren Blundell? How deep do you want me to go? I'm a woman who has had many relationships, some toxic, some beautiful, and I have experienced a lot of divorce in my life, not my own. And I love helping people, and I knew from a very young age I wanted to own my own business, and I've always known that I intrinsically like to serve and I like to help. I just needed to understand in what way or what capacity I would be doing that with people. So majority of my 20s I spent traveling and in the wrong career. And then edging towards my 30s, I really started asking the question, or really started looking at my life and going, I'm not really happy in many aspects of my life. So went on that journey to rearrange everything. And it's been such a progression to get to where I am right now. Gosh, I'm like, should I talk about my personality?
I think the reality is absolutely. Well, I think the reality is when people work with a coach, they're working with us as humans. So they want to get to know us. They want to feel that we're the right person to trust, right? They want to feel safe and connected. So I guess it is a little bit about who are you as a human, but I guess you've kind of touched on it a little bit. But why is it that you coach?
Yeah, great question. Like I said, I love helping people, and I went through a bit of a progression of landing to a coach. I flirted with different careers like psychology and nursing and personal training because I love all those things. And then I started studying human behavior, and I came across the relationship coaching module, and it was just like a Christmas tree lit up. It was like, ding, 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 ding. This is my path. Because I realized, because I hadn't been married and I watched a lot of people in my family go through divorce, and I was like, they're really great people, but we're getting something fundamentally wrong. And I know it's not just them. It's a great deal of society is getting relationships wrong. So when I really started to look at it, I was like, okay, and at the very fundamental part of us being a human is to bond, is to love, is to connect. But if we're not doing that, it causes a lot of stress for the two people in the relationship, but the children and everyone else involved in that family structure and the structure that is created. Given that I grew up with my parents apart, and through my own inner work and psychology lessons or sessions and seeing a coach, I really peeled back the layers of myself and understood myself so much more. Wow. And it's still going on. Like, it's such a process. And when
it's a never-ending journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I say to my clients, like, you come to me and this is like the beginning of your journey. You never stop learning and growing. So it just was really destiny, purpose. Like I could go into a very spiritual side of me, that it's very much written in the stars that I'll just work with people in their relationships and in partnerships and in marriage. The sexuality coaching and sex coaching came probably like a year and a bit later, because I realized after coaching a lot of couples and doing 2-to-1 sessions, there was so many sexless relationships out there, and sex is so tangible that you know when you're not having it in a relationship. Some people can't language, I don't have intimacy, or I don't have trust, or the other things that we haven't been taught how to language and how to identify, and then how to work on it and manage. But when you're not having enough sex.
Yeah.
So I really went down that path and started studying Tantra, which is beautiful. And I love taking my couples through Tantric exercises and getting them to really connect and drop into their heart space, to be more vulnerable with their partner. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've kind of touched on my next question, which was going to be around what was the catalyst for you to become a coach, and what was the aha moment you had. But you've touched on that a little bit, because you spoke about the fact that you saw lots of people getting it wrong and you wanted to be able to help them in some way. And it sounds like you're definitely doing that. And then my next question was going to be, what are some of the common challenges you've found for your clients along the way? But obviously, a lot of that was that vulnerability and that intimacy, because that's what I'm imagining has led you into the sex therapy work that you're doing. And vulnerability is key, right? So unless you're willing to be vulnerable, I imagine there's not a lot you can actually achieve.
Yeah, but it's also a bit deeper than that, because it's so easy to say, be vulnerable, but it's like, how?
Yeah, what does that mean?
And when people don't know how to calibrate themselves and understand their needs, and understand there is more empowering ways to achieve those needs, as there can be disempowering ways, people just look at, be vulnerable. What does that actually encapsulate?
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone. Communication is a major thing too that I help people with. However, it's not very sexy. I don't get a lot of engagement with my communication posts and stuff. Everything to do with sex and pleasure, yes.
Yeah. So what would be sort of the key call outs that you would say are sort of common themes that you're finding with the because I know that you coach both individuals and come to you, but so what are some of the themes that you see come through consistently?
Unsatisfaction in the bedroom due to lack of communication and resentment. Incompatibility. I think a lot of people are in relationships with a partner that they're actually incompatible with.
Interesting.
And it takes a lot to be truthful around that and authentic around that.
I'm curious about that. What do you think I'm curious a little bit about that. What do you think the driver is for people to stay in relationships where there is just the incompatibility is not there?
Lots of things. Kids, finances, the belief that nothing's perfect, the belief that, this is all I'm going to get. Like, it's there's loads of reasons. Yeah, loads of reasons. And when you're so far deep in the relationship, I guess it's easier to stay because you know what you're going to get than upheave everything and move on.
Wow.
And it's scary. It's scary.
Totally. Yeah. It's funny because when you said I can't even say it,
incompatibility.
Compatibility. I would immediately think that it'd be early days in the relationship, but obviously from what you're saying, it's not necessarily. It's obviously something they've either squashed or not addressed for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I see a lot of couples get into relationships and there's not a lot of, okay, well, how are we going to make this container work for us?
Yeah.
You know, how are we going to make sure that we're both happy in this container called relationship, because we both are individuals? We're not taught that. We're just taught to get into a relationship and go through the motions of, you know, dating, having sex, and then planning the next stage of moving in and getting married and having babies. And then there's all this stress that falls onto the relationship, and the communication is shot. There's excess amount of stress, then the sex dies, and there's resentment, and people are taking things out on each other, and they're turning towards each other aggressively because they're more often than not in codependent relationships where they're making their partner the thing that they want to feel and responsible for how they feel. So we're not taught to have interdependent relationships, and we're not taught to be securely attached. Attachment styles is something that I'm really loving playing with at the moment, because I'm seeing my own play out at the moment, which is really lovely and great, because I can really see how I can sway, and just working on that within my own relationship so I come back to secure, because it's all about self-mastery, and that's what I hopefully teach my couples, is to really manage self and really come back to alignment, and sharing what's going on for them when it comes up, and being able to talk to that without judgment and without justifying and without the ego, taking the ego out of it, which is a process. It's a lesson. It's an absolute lesson. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, isn't it? Because it actually, to me, it reminds me of the value of, you know, something that's probably considered very archaic now, which is that whole pre-marriage counseling, you know, and even in its very kind of traditional form, where, you know, they certainly weren't talking about your, you know, meeting your sexual desires and communicating what you need in the bedroom. It was still that kind of idea of learning to come together as a team, and learning communication styles and all that kind of, I guess, the framework and the foundation for having a healthy relationship where you're coming in as equals, and you both have a voice and you're both respected. You know, you're taking it to this whole new level, and you know, and I see in your posts all the time, and I imagine it's you know, unfortunately, you would be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff a lot of the time, because people don't tend to reach out for help in these areas until, you know, they're already in trouble.
Yeah. And it's harder. It makes my job so much harder. Yeah, it's so much easier to work on your relationship when you like the person that you're in a relationship with. And, you know, you can stand them. But
tantric exercises must be really interesting when you want to punch the person in the face.
yeah, definitely. Ding, ding, ding. I bring some like punching gloves.
Yeah, when you say that it is much harder to start when you're already in that place, but I guess, you know, the reality is people don't ask for help until they're at that point, and obviously we want to encourage them to ask for help much sooner. But where do you start when they come to you and they're already in a really bad place, and the marriage is potentially at, you know, on its last legs, and this is kind of the last ditch effort, I guess, to try to pull this thing back together? Where do you start?
Yeah, really good question. I had this on Saturday twice with two couples. So so part of how I work is my first session's free. So I get a really clear understanding of where they're at in their relationship. And I can spend up to an hour with a couple, just really understanding what emotions are coming up for them right now. Because that's what really we need to work on first, is just clearing the negative emotions that they have towards each other and any negative beliefs that may show up. So I look there first, and then depending, I mean, I really calibrate the couple. But the couple that I had on Saturday, I did some clearing on her, and I chatted to the man about energetic pulse within the man and the female. So that's very tantric. And then I got them to do an eye gazing exercise at the end of the session. So I actually left the room, let them to their own devices, which was, and it's fun and it's playful. So whilst it is really beautiful when you do sink into an eye gazing exercise for 5-10 minutes with your partner, it's really gorgeous. But when you haven't done it ever before, and you've got me kind of like sitting there, like, you know, being funny and kind of like just being quite lighthearted about it, they were cracking up. So it was really lovely to see that between the two of them and that connection, because laughter is the shortest distance between two people. So that was lovely. But then, you know, they started eye gazing. So I gave them that homework for the first week to really connect. Because eye gazing, I don't know if you've done it before or.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
But when you do it for the first time, it's really alien.
Awkward.
It is, and it's awesome. But it's that first step into vulnerability. You know, it's that first step of going, I'm okay, I trust my partner, I'm going to just sit here and we're going to stare into each other's eyes like we probably have never done.
Yes.
And it's weird, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is wonderful. And you know, I normalize everything. I'm like, anything that comes up, allow it to come up. You can cry, you can laugh, you'll want to touch your partner. And yeah, like, so I calibrate each couple really. It's dependent on where they're at and what's going on for them. But usually if they come to me and there is real heightened and charged negative emotions towards each other, we need to work on those first before we get into any kind of strategy work or any kind of vulnerability work. You know, we need to alleviate some of that internal stress within them. And I also teach them how to manage themselves. So then they can do it if any, because the thing is that our intimate relationships are the most beautiful personal development tool that we'll ever actually experience, and our partners are going to trigger us. That's their job. What we do with that trigger is the most important thing. Either we lash out at them because we've had some fear or insecurity rise within us, or we take that insecurity and fear and we manage it ourselves. So that's what I teach my clients.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful process, and I just you know, I know you, but you're incredibly successful now. You know, word's getting out about Lauren Blundell, and you know, and you the way you create this really lovely safe space for your clients is just beautiful, and it must just be such a rewarding space to be working in. So I guess the next thing I'd love to ask you is, what does it mean to you to be able to do what you do?
Yeah, great question. It's so rewarding. It's so purpose driven, and it's so amazing to watch the transformation on any of my clients, because we aren't taught how to relate properly. We're not taught how to love ourselves and others. We're not taught how to communicate, and we're definitely not taught how to have sex properly. So when I can witness a client who comes to me who is completely numb within her body and has never orgasmed or can't orgasm or has some other thing going on that's really restricting her from feeling a lot of pleasure within her body, and then I witnessed that transformation through working with me, I mean, words can't describe.
Yeah.
Really. You know, I've heard some people say that sex coaching is probably like the last style of coaching that people do when they go on their personal development coaching journey. And people don't think about it so much, but it brings up so much stuff and so much vulnerability, and there just needs to be a lot of respect between practitioner and client, because it's really vulnerable, and we've all been taught in different ways, and there's so much shame and guilt and stigma that is still around our sexuality as humans. So I love empowering people, both men and women, to be able to have better, connected and more empowered sex lives.
Amazing. And I think too, when it comes to, you know, like you said, you know, we're not taught how to do this. You know, we're barely given, you know, relationship skills to go out into life with. So to be given, you know, the skills and the knowledge to go out and have a great sex life, that's not something our parents teach us. So
No.
no. So, like there are really, I guess there are some basic tools that we can't, like as a parent, you know, I'm consciously thinking, what tools can I give my child that's appropriate to take out into life? And I guess for me, it's you know, I've got a 13-year-old son, and you know, for me, it's about teaching him to be respectful, to listen, to be present, to be connected. I'm certainly not going to teach him how to go out and have sex, but you know, like it's about what are the fundamental kind of foundation layers I can add, and to be able to communicate what he needs, you know, and to respect the needs of somebody else. And I guess that stuff we can, as parents and as a society, kind of create some more healthy functional layers that will support the work that you're doing, hopefully going forward.
Yeah. Interesting you say that, because I do have a teenage program for young women, and it's all about teaching them about their body, about the menstrual cycle, because again, for women, we were never brought up to celebrate our menstruation. Yeah. And we have so much shame, so much just like disconnection from that part of our body. And it's such a powerful, wise part of us, and it deserves a lot of airtime, really. So, and I teach them about the sacredness of sex. So I know, like in school, and I remember in my school, it was like you got taught the functionality and then you got taught to fear it. And there was nothing about pleasure, nothing. And then we either experimented ourselves or we watched porn, and porn is a terrible representation of sex and lovemaking.
That's how we all do it.
You're just like stab in the dark. So the program is to teach women especially how sacred their temple is, and how sacred their womb is, and that part of their body, and to understand the energy of lovemaking as well, that you take on that person's energy. So if you're going around and, you know, having multiple partners, you're taking on a lot of stuff. Yeah, I've felt it before, sleeping with someone. I was seeing the guy, but then crying afterwards, because I was taking on all of his stuff at that time. So I had to do a lot of saging and clearing.
Oh, and it's heavy, right? So I remember, you know, as a young woman, you know, hearing all my friends, the way they I'm really lucky. I was being with my partner since, you know, we were at high school. So I never had to do the, you know, the out in the field, sleeping around, kind of navigate my 20s. But, you know, I would remember, you know, hearing from my friends about how, you know, it was like sex was like a task. It was something they did for their partner, or you know, they had to service their partner a certain number of times a week. And I just was just like, what? Like, there's so many things wrong with this picture. But there wasn't the language, there wasn't the understanding, there wasn't this kind of shared pleasure or this shared connection. It was a thing that people did, not something that they shared. So I think as we evolve as humans, and I guess as we get a little bit older and a little bit wiser, you know, things get a lot clearer for us. So it's very exciting for me to hear that you're doing a teenage girl program, because I think, oh my God, if I had had something like that when I was young, you know.
Totally.
So you know, that's just amazing. So so that's pretty much my questions for you tonight, and thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's amazing. For those of you who are watching this interview and would love to work with Lauren, pick her brains and connect with her, you can connect with Lauren through laurenblundell.com. And where else can they follow you if they want to follow you, Lauren?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I have my Instagram handle is laurenblundell.coach. On Facebook, I'm Lauren Blundell, Relationship and Intimacy Coach. And that's it. Not on Twitter.
How you can't get the same handle across everything.
Oh my gosh. Well, like I kind of did that. And then I was like, and then I had all these business cards printed and they're so beautiful. And I'm like, why did I just not put the same name?
Well, you can't. I've tried. And you
can't. Really?
No, you can't. That for some reason, one thing that's available in one place isn't available in the other. So who knew?
Oh, okay.
But never mind. But thank you so much. That's been amazing. And I hope people reach out, because I know that the work you do with your couples and like I said, your singles, you know, is so valuable. So I hope you get lots of things and people reach out for you. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, perfect. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.